that you fund. So I think that it might be worth looking at as a set of measures that would be consistent with the broader goals of the report.
That's great. I had heard a little bit about that, but I didn't know it was finalized. So can we get can someone pull the link in the chat for those of us on chatting?
I put the link in there already. So
Nima, this is Jennifer, and it's occurring to me as I'm sitting here thinking about the fine work that we've done, modestly said, that integrated care, I'm wondering about the quality measures for integrated care specifically, and those that are non-billable. We talked about parity a lot earlier, but the non-billable sources of, when people come together for multidisciplinary team meetings, there are non-billable case assessments that are done, or other types of, so quality measures with respect to integrated care and specifically the non-billable types, I would focus on making them billable.
That's an excellent point. Absolutely. Yeah. Both great comments, and thank you, Sean, for sharing that as well.
Hi, Nima, this is Anita. So recently, our National Advisory Council has a subcommittee that's looking at work on and ideas for optimizing the CCBHC model and how we might use data to on a national scale to use that. Anyway, as a part of that subcommittee meeting, which we had earlier this week, where David and Maya and Pam and I were, there was some talk about measurement-based care and also the use of artificial intelligence to enhance measurement-based care. Or was there some way, or could we imagine a time where artificial intelligence parameters or inputs might be used to make measurement-based care more sort of tailored to the person and the experience they were having, and less burdensome for clinicians or staff to have to enter into the mechanics of entering information in a database that collects it over time? I'm just wondering if you thought about that, or that might be some future opportunity to think about. And I don't know if David or anybody wants to add anything on that.
Dr. Everett, I was just thinking about that myself. Jennifer Higgins here. And the perils of AI and relying solely on that. So there might be an interesting analysis done between non-AI versus AI outcome measures and quality assessment that could be done as a study too.
Just a quick comment, often when we talk about measurement-based care, it's the people who are continuing to engage in services and the people who are showing up. We're not getting measures from the people who are no longer part of the system. And so I would be curious about how we might think about really intentionally engaging the people who the system didn't serve well enough for them to keep coming, and including them in NBC.
We're actually piloting a predictive analytic case management system right now. And it's not just going to gather psychiatric pieces. It's also going to look at primary and eye, because the new facility we're about to open has all those services. And as a requirement of the providers, they're going to have to be able to agree to share all that information. And we're a large community, and so fragmented. The hope is using this technology, we can get a better idea on who's doing a better job, why, what triggers may go on we haven't even thought about, and are there primary signs that we miss because we don't integrate the research either. So we'll be happy to share, and hopefully it'll be half as good as they're telling us it is, and we'll go from there.
So sorry, who was that just spoke?
Sure, this is Judge Leifman in Miami.
Wonderful. Yeah, because we would, we're definitely inviting folks to come speak with us and, to learn more about the work you're doing. So just want to make sure we're tracking so we could reach back out later. But no, Dr. Everett, that's a really good point around AI. It's not something we've talked about so much so far. So definitely something for us to consider. We know there are some AI interventions that have been shown to reduce bias in certain settings and be better for people of different racial backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds. And also with regards to supporting the workforce with this. So definitely something to think about. And all the other sessions have been great. But yeah, any other thoughts here?
I'll add one in there. The one I always love is quality of life. you know, are people's lives improving per their self-report? And then if there's a way to get at some of the recovery components that we talk about. So, you know, health, home, purpose, and community, which we know aligns with some of the social determinants. So are any of those things in terms of a person's life space changing or improving? So.
Absolutely. It's a great one. Dr. Delphin will definitely circle back on that as we start more work on quality measures.
Just one quick thing to add. I mean, I think the sentiment of making it as easy as possible is the crucial part of it. I don't think we know what AI can do yet that would be supportive of this kind of endeavor, but I do know that we've moved from, you know, in the past decade from paper and pencil administration into all sorts of ways that computers have helped make it easier to collect and interpret the information for everyone, for providers, for people using the care. So, I mean, I think that the value is to make sure that when we do it, it's serving everyone as well as possible and as seamlessly as possible. So we've already made vast improvements from moving from pencil and paper into computerized and computer-assisted systems. And I don't know, it would be pure speculation to think about how AI might work, but certainly moving toward making it as easy as possible is the value.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joel. Other thoughts? And then the second question too, just anything else you think we should be considering in this work around MBC, you know, even if it's not related to quality measures, feel free to throw out there.
This is Sean again. There's I don't have the thing in front of me anymore, but there was a section in there where you're talking about re-evaluating standards for civil commitment. And I think that's really fascinating. I think a lot of people, particularly advocates, would love to see more focus on that. I'm wondering, is there anything more specific about that one, or is that you know, how much traction does that have at this point?
I think that was the previous working group.
Oh,
So I don't know.
apologies.
And if they're here and they
All right,
want to
no worries.
respond, but I don't think that was ours.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll ask it another way another time then. Thank you. It jumped out at me. I thought it was this one. Sorry.
Well, all these suggestions have been incredibly helpful, really engaging discussion. So thank you for that. Dr. Resnick, did you have anything else to add here?
No, I just
Closing?
appreciate everyone's thoughtful comments. Thank you.
I believe that was our last slide, but we could check. So I guess we'll do our voting. Dr. Delphin. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much to that work group for all of the work that's gone into your report and the meetings in between our full group meeting. So we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the working group report. Can I get a motion?
Jennifer Higgins, I move that we accept the report.
Thank you. Second?
Ron Bruno, second.
Thank you, Ron. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? All right, so thank you to that working group. And I will now turn the floor back over to Pam. I believe we do have some public comments.
Thank you, Dr. Delphin Rittman. So now's the portion of the meeting where we open up the lines for public comment. Those who called in and have requested to speak will be called upon in the order that the comments were submitted. As a reminder, each individual will have up to 3 minutes to read their public comment. First public commenter that we have in line is Edmund Creekmore. Mr. Creekmore, if you are online, please raise your hand.
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I am Dr. Edmund Creekmore Jr. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and independent forensic examiner in a private community hospital where I do an independent assessment, evaluation, and a commitment court in that judicial venue. I'm also the National Shattering the Silence Policy Action Co-Chair. The NSSC is a bipartisan organization of family and adult peer volunteers dedicated to the support of their adult, seriously mentally ill loved ones. The NSSC advocates for enhanced Medicaid 1115 waiver funding for provision of a broad continuum of care for the seriously mentally ill with the active support of their families and adult peers in their own homes who have histories of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and related psychotic disorders, which are known to recur and remit over time. A broad continuum of care is what is needed in our organization's view. This includes provision of crisis support services made available in home settings when necessary by co-response teams with diversion whenever and wherever possible of the SMI charged with misdemeanor offenses from the criminal justice system to fully funded outpatient treatment resources in the community. In this endeavor, our organization advocates for enhanced funding for expanded use of assertive community treatment, ACT teams, and forensic community team FACT teams to include assisted outpatient AOT, that is, treatment over objection, for those individuals suffering from lack of insight into their illness or anosognosia, who are too sick to know that they are too sick to give legal consent to treatment, yet who may have the capacity to abide by with the aid of a civil outpatient court order with community-based treatment and mental health support. Home-based psychiatric care offers many advantages over traditional inpatient psychiatric care, which often necessitates removing those with severe mental health disabilities from their families and homes. Modern point-of-care technologies, including many telehealth solutions already implemented in place during the COVID-19 pandemic, offer efficiencies of scale. Home-based psychiatric care avoids many of the problems reported by peer organizations, such as missed appointments due to often unreliable Medicaid cab services, as well as the emotional trauma due to the untimely and in many instances avoidable removal of loved ones in a mental health crisis from their homes by the police. These technologies offer real promise for the future in receiving evidence-based medical care when and where they are needed based on a model already being implemented in the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and around the world. With critical housing and workforce shortages, states across the nation should take notice and be considering home-based remote psychiatric care as an option, one tool in the toolbox available for use along a broad spectrum of care. The wider application of modern point-of-care technologies offers the prospect in the not too distant future of healing the breach that often exists between physician and patient that acute psychiatric hospitalization in the Commonwealth and across the nation currently poses, with fewer HIPAA privacy complaints about inadequate communication and lack of prior notice of discharge made by concerned family members of the adult mentally ill, as services in many instances are directly provided in the home. Many traditional psychiatric inpatient services provided with 24-hour nursing care support in acute psychiatric hospital settings can be provided safely with adherence in principle to fidelity standards as established by evidence-based CCBHC standards in homes of many of these at-risk populations with telehealth and expanded ACT and FACT team support. Home-based psychiatric care with telehealth support is an old idea with a modern point-of-care technologies whose idea may have finally come, though no one treatment strategy is likely to suit the special circumstances of all adults with SMIs and their families. It is our organization's opinion that home-based remote psychiatric care with enhanced remote technological support is one tool in the toolbox that should be seriously considered by SAMHSA and ISMIC for a SAMHSA demonstration grant funding. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Creekmore, for your comment. Moving on to Mary Kramick.
No response, Pamela.
Okay, thank you, Selby. Moving on to Gail Geese.
No response.
Thank you, Selby. Moving on to Dawn Stevens.
No response.
Moving on to Ann Cochran. Yeah, she's right there.
Hi, Pamela. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As Executive Director of the National Shadow and Silence Coalition, an all-volunteer organization comprised of those with lived experience, families, caregivers, and professionals, I wanted to share a few of the stories I have heard from families over the past year. Ryan was a 32-year-old who left his family home this past winter while in psychosis and was found this spring on the streets. Unfortunately, Ryan lost his life 2 weeks later while hospitalized. He died from an infection. Nick is a 21-year-old with schizoaffective disorder who attempted to take his father's life while psychotic. This was after being involuntarily committed to a hospital and ordered held up to 6 months, but released to the streets after just 5 weeks. Because of his mother's fierce advocacy, Nick was given probation and released to the streets. Still, the worry remains about who will be next if Nick doesn't adhere to his treatment, which is very likely as he doesn't believe he has a mental illness. Bob lost his son Brett after he walked in front of a train. Brett lived with schizoaffective disorder and he was living on the streets. Bob attended a press conference 2 days before he buried his son to advocate across the state of Maine for enhanced education around the Progressive Treatment Program, which is Maine's version of AOT, which could have saved Brett's life. His family, the hospital, and law enforcement had no idea that such a law had existed for 22 years or the process needed to implement this life-saving program. These stories represent just a handful of families throughout the country. We are seeing increased funding for mental health, yet the results remain dire. Our country and this committee continue to fail those living with severe mental illness. We are not doing enough to help those who are unfortunate enough to experience both psychosis and anosognosia. Psychosis is when someone hears, sees, or believes something to be 100% true despite it making no sense to those around them. Anosognosia is a symptom of these illnesses that prevents one from recognizing they are ill. The best first episode psychosis programs do no good to those who don't believe they are ill. The recent evaluation of the SAMHSA AOT grant program conducted by RTI International, Policy Associates, Inc., and Duke University School of Medicine presented new findings about AOT's effectiveness across 6 study sites. Key findings included high levels of satisfaction from family members and participants, improvement in outcomes, and a return on investment for AOT programs. These types of programs need more funding, not less, as we saw in fiscal year 2024. SAMHSA just released a new brochure that emphasizes the crucial role of early detection and intervention in serious mental illnesses, emphasizing the need for prompt attention to the first onset of symptoms. Why is the critical information about anosognosia and available treatment options like AOT not mentioned as a solution when psychosis and anosognosia are present? AOT can be the lifeline for families who cannot otherwise get their loved ones help to keep them safe. In closing, I ask that the members of ISMIC see the unseen and start focusing on real solutions that will improve the outcomes for those with SMI. Families like mine are counting on you. And just as an aside, I want to say that I'm very hopeful in the discussions I'm hearing today. And I think it's the first time I've ever heard somebody mention, what do we do for somebody that isn't able to recognize their illness? And, these are the people that we need to really focus on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cochran. And the next public comment is Ibis Gonzalez.
No response.
Thank you, Selby. Next public comment is Daryl Herman.
I believe your audio dropped.
Selby, can you hear us?
Now I can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay. I believe we've been diagnosed schizophrenia very successfully for over 40 years. The most prominent feature of schizophrenia is psychosis. To be psychotic or in psychosis simply means a person experiencing hallucination delusions, and because to that person those hallucination delusions are reality, he acts in ways that make decisions that make no sense to those around him. The medical model of schizophrenia is a consensus view of modern psychiatry of schizophrenia. It states that schizophrenia is a result of biological differences in the brains of schizophrenics. Treatment is usually addressed by what is known as the biopsychosocial model. The biology of the illness is treated with antipsychotic medications. The psychological part of the illness is treated with psychotherapy to address dealing with residual symptoms. Medications do not relieve and help with social functioning, impairments due to the illness. Social treatment revolves around forming a social environment that is conducive to recovery, which usually involves lowering stress levels in the work and/or social environment of the patient. Since this is a consensus view of psychiatry, anyone who does not accept the medical model is by definition anti-psychiatry. There are many anti-psychiatry groups in existence today at the national, state, and local level. There are also some that are international. I'm going to address only three. They're the Hearing Voices Network USA, the National Empowerment Center, and Inner Voice. Members of Hearing Voice Network are usually referred to as voice hearers because the most common symptom they describe is hearing voices, although other hallucinations are also reported. Inner Voice is the international parent organization of Hearing Voices Network. National Empowerment Center is a U.S.-based organization that receives significant funding from SAMHSA. Oryx Cohen is the Chief Operating Officer of the National Empowerment Center and also a former board member of Hearing Voices Network. All three organizations support the idea that voice hearers experience psychosis. They also adamantly oppose the medical model, making them anti-psychiatry. Inner Voices even campaigned to remove the diagnosis of schizophrenia from the DSM, saying that it is a normal part of human experience and not an illness. I have read dozens of accounts of voice hearers experiencing hallucinations, but none of voice hearers experiencing illusions or losing touch with reality. The main page of the Hearing Voices Network website lists an article from the Lancet Psychiatry March 2015 edition on their experience. This article describes many instances of hallucinations, but no evidence of delusion or loss of touch with reality. I see no evidence of voice hearers in any significant number actually experience psychosis, despite many claiming to have a schizophrenia spectrum diagnosis. Hallucinations alone does not mean psychosis. These people are properly represented in the peer movement and are in almost complete control of it. SAMHSA lavishes a lot of support on them. They advocate tirelessly against any coercion or involuntary treatment of the mentally ill. As someone who has experienced psychosis, I know that coercion and involuntary treatment are often necessary to deal with psychosis. They have a saying, nothing about us without us. It is clear they have no knowledge of or experience with psychosis. Why are they even allowed at the table when discussing issues involving psychosis? They do not experience psychosis, so it is not about them. SAMHSA is a major ally of the anti-psychiatry movement. SAMHSA recently cut funding for SMI Advisor, which was a science-based program providing the best science available on psychotic illnesses. This is a clear indication that SAMHSA does not follow the science. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Herman, for your comment. Next public comment is Mary Ellen Stewart.
You can.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to everybody on the committee for your effort to provide solutions to mental illness in our country. We all know it's hard work and we're super grateful for your persistence. In the March meeting and the meeting today, your esteemed committee member, Judge Leifman, advocated for decriminalizing mental illness. His data shows how expensive it is to have criminal justice be primary in handling people with severe and persistent mental illness. Judge Leifman also exposes that this is mostly ineffective, and it's nobody's fault. Those punitive systems were never designed to offer complex, long-term, medically necessary treatment. We define the overall problem as mental illness, which has the word illness right in the name of the problem. Illness suggests that medical intervention is required. Doctors and therapists can create effective treatment plans. The challenge is to get someone with serious mental illness to actually follow them. The answer for many who suffer with mental illness is to live in excellent residential treatment, also called permanent supportive housing. These quality programs provide the medical support to follow the doctor's orders, allowing the patients to attain medical well-being and achieve lasting stability. Stable people don't need law enforcement, they don't need crisis units, and they don't need hospitals. Community-based organizations and services were mentioned several times today. Most of these are nonprofits providing evidence-based, medically necessary care. They operate on tight budgets because funding is so difficult to secure. Private donors and private foundations pick up the bulk of the costs. These community-based organizations are often referred to as housing that heals, supportive housing, and residential treatment. But what they really do is put supports in place to allow their residents to follow the doctor's wellness plan. Their goal is to promote healing and stability, and they can demonstrate success. Directing funding to these organizations is a more responsible, much lower cost investment with high potential positive impact. And because the housing is long-term, the recidivism rate can drop to single digits, unlike some of the limited term interventions in law enforcement. There are government grants out there, and some were mentioned today. In California, we even now have Prop 1 funds to address mental illness. I can personally tell you that all this money is really hard to get. It's because the bar is set to a standard that is almost unattainable for a community-based organization that is really busy providing effective supportive treatment. None have extra staff to constantly monitor funding opportunities and then assemble the endless documentation needed to apply. So the money might be there, but it's not helping enough of the people that it's meant for. I'm hoping the ISMIC committee can help change that. Focus Group 3 today talked about identifying and supporting best practices in public-private partnerships. Focus Group 1 talked about person-centered integrated care. These things really give me hope. Good community-based organizations can make real progress to improve the way that serious and persistent mental illness is treated in our country. They can also save money. Please redirect some of the funding from the expense of police, courts, jails, crisis care, ERs, and hospitals to the lower cost, boots on the ground services that are providing the effective, stabilizing care for people who suffer from mental illness. Stable people don't need expensive interventions. And as a side note, it would make your job of being on the ISMIC a lot easier. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can I follow up real quick?
Certainly.
I'll send them to you. I'm going to send them to you right now. We did a couple recent studies. We're getting ready to open this new facility. For the record, this is Steve Leifman. And so we get a list every day from our county on who's eligible for our diversion program. So trying to figure out who's going to be first priority for the new facility, we went back and we looked at everybody that was on that list over the last 5 years. We identified 16,000 people. They were arrested 32,000 times. Every one of them were eligible for diversion. They spent 1.2 million days in the Dade County Jail. That's 3,400 years at a cost of over $414 million. So her point is very well taken. It is such a, forget the cost, but the cost to the individual and society is 10 times that amount. And there just has to be a better way to do this. So thank you.
Thank you, Judge Leifman, and thank you, Mary Ellen Stewart. Our final comment is Laura Creation.
You're able to hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Laura Creation. I'm the co-chair of the Policy Action Committee for National Shattering Silence Coalition. I am a peer, bipolar, and I'm an advocate, and I'm a caregiver to an adult son, 22 years old, with schizoaffective disorder. I hear the horror stories from families who never made it to treatment before tragedy happened. When my son was hospitalized for trying to kill his father in extreme psychosis on December 27th, 2023, I was in catastrophic stress. But my shock had started the previous 2 years when his sudden onset of schizoaffective disorder turned our family upside down. At onset, Nick went missing for 3 months. I'm sorry, endangered and missing for 3 months. He allegedly stole $500,000 and then was seen passing it out on the streets in the poorest section of town, returning home starving with false fixed delusions about being needing to climb trees naked to hear the voices in his head better. We tried 16 attempts in 2 months for him to be hospitalized, but succeeded only twice. That includes the 988 and the CCBHs. The first was by police who had taken him by force, and the ER said he had cannabis as his cause for his bipolar 1 with psychotic features mania episode. The second was McLean, who ended up committing him, and McLean is the best hospital in the country for his illness, but was frustrated at him cheeking his meds, so they let him go after 5 weeks, saying we were lucky they let him stay for 2 months long, being so non-compliant, having no insight and having no participation in therapy or groups. Nick was released to a homeless shelter as no family felt safe with him at that point, and was given a 1-month follow-up psychiatric appointment, which Nick never showed up for. And because he had the belief he had no mental illness and wanted to give his appointment to someone who needed it more than him. 10 months later, without smoking cannabis for at least 7 months straight, he had that extreme psychotic episode where he thought he could see and hear the devil, which almost ended his father's life if police didn't pepper spray him off. He had bitten and beaten his father so badly the neighbors were all outside watching in horror as he headbutted him forehead to forehead while pinned to the sidewalk. What turned out to be a shock from our son's new behaviors became a shock of this country's policies that have let dangerousness go to a new level before treatment is available. It turns out this has been the way for decades. Why? Because the wrong people have the microphone. The peer movement has to be with those who have either great knowledge about anosognosia from the most severe spectrum of the illness, or ones who are in recovery. And we have those peers in our advocacy group. It turns out, NSOC is the only group I know of who seeks publicity as a cure. They gather the stories like mine together as a valuable, insightful, and hard-earned learning tool. Lessons that have to be listened to, otherwise we'll go another 20 years with the same exact situation we have now. I recommend to ISMIC there be data collection and analysis of the homeless and incarcerated populations, that includes the morgues from suicide, to determine the prevalence of anosognosia. By seeing the actual number, you will understand why it is the missing link. ISMIC can identify funding for this work and appropriate researchers to do the work. It should be your priority in order to stop the spread of death and trauma and families like mine across the nation. And as a side note, you were talking about measurement-based care. How can you measure data from a person who's homeless living in a different state altogether from their families, who have lost connection with their families? How are you ever going to get actual data? So my son was both in a diversion program and a competency for a hearing, and he is still unmedicated and in ongoing court cases to this day, 2 of them. The CCBHs and the 988 are useless for the population who are too sick to know that they're sick. I asked the CEO of that program, she confirmed no one calls in with symptoms of anosognosia or family members. They need this bridge to care. They need AOT. Otherwise, those great services that you have are not going to be utilized. And I asked peers adding to the conversation regarding laws around the most severe spectrum of diagnosis of psychotic illnesses, not moderate or mild, those who know how the symptom of anosognosia feels like, looks like, acts like. This is not a psychological symptom, but a neurological one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Creation, for your public comment. And I want to thank everyone who called in to share their comments with the ISMIC members today. All comments that were submitted, including the ones that were not able to be read, will become part of the official meeting record. I'm now going to turn the meeting back over to Dr. Dolphin Rittman for final comments.
And thank you so much, Pam, for managing the public comments and really for all of your work in helping to get the meeting together as our designated federal official. And then also the CMHS team that worked to get the meeting together as well and keeps us on track. So again, just want to thank everyone for being with us for this meeting. Really, really appreciated the discussion and comments and feedback. Appreciated the report outs from each of the work groups. Wonderful to see the progress, like the drill down detailed progress and work that's happening within each of the working groups. As Dr. Everett said, and I mentioned earlier, we are so grateful for your work on this committee. And I loved that collaboration came out as one of our key themes because that was definitely evident in the report outs and the discussions that we heard today. And so looking forward to our continued collaboration. We definitely have more work to do. We put all those recommendations together and it's a mighty list, but this is certainly the group to do it. So looking forward to our continued work together. And for everyone online, thanks for hanging and being with us online through the meeting. And everyone in the room, thanks for traveling in for this meeting as well. So at that, I will say our meeting is adjourned. So thanks, everyone. Take care.